Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sound Test Room. Today, we are going to take a good look at the new app from Bram and Hainbach. This is called Sculptor, and it is a filter bank. Okay, you have 4 filter bank models to choose from. You have this analog, a resonant, the 1949, and the vowel. Right, okay, so you also have 3 different modes. You have faders mode here. Then you have the elastic mode and you have cycles mode. So you can see cycles mode is like an LFO. So all these different bands. Oh, and also if you notice, watch, if I go back to cycles mode now and I'll stop this around here and go back to faders, you'll see that it kind of reflects what was going on in the cycles mode. You can isolate any of these bands. Now to show you, before I get going, right, I'm going to play this. I've got lots of stuff going on. I've got some pad sounds from Fonstack and some drums, then some just upright piano, then some special effects, thunder and rain from Halley and Sonic. We're going to try it on all of these so you can see all the cool effects you can get. But just to start, Sculptor comes with a built-in noise generator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down to minimum, and that will basically turn everything off. I will bring up the noise, and then we can bring in different frequencies. So I'll bring up some more. And this noise covers the full spectrum of human hearing. Right. You have feedback here. And the amount of feedback influences the shape of the filter roll-off. So its lowest setting, the filters behave as flat filters. I'm reading from the manual here, by the way. So at its lowest setting, the filters behave as flat filters with a gentle roll-off. Let me just bring that friction up to stop it. And at higher settings, a ripple is introduced on the cut-off points of the bands. The roll-off becomes steeper and the sound will become more resonant. So you get an idea. You can play around with the amount of feedback you have. Now, if you remember, Bram and Hainbach have done 2 previous collaborations. One was called Gauss, which was a field looper, and the next one was Fluss, right? And you could control how these faders work with this friction control. So they're kinetic with no friction on at all. If I just move and flick, this will just carry on doing this forever, and I can do the same for any. So depending on how fast you flick and move, so you can control movement of all of these filters. You also have a bump control, which kind of just randomizes all this stuff. Bump it again. And then if you hit random, it will randomize a point of fixed filter points. Minimum, no sound at all. Max. Now the friction control will eventually stop any kinetic movement in the sliders. And if this is full on, nothing's going to happen. And bump won't do anything. You have to have some kind of kinetic movement, and you'll see it'll only move a little bit, but if we do this, these will move for a bit longer. Eventually they'll stop, and depending on how this is set is how long these will move for. So if I set this to max and go through the filter types, so resonant, 1949, and vowel. I'll just set some random movement off here. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back to analog. Okay, so let's set these kind of central-ish. Let me turn that off. You can also limit the range of any particular band you like. So hold on the top around here and drag down. And now this band here will not move beyond its max point. And you can also do, if you touch on the bottom here, you can also limit the bass range. Okay, very cool. Let's reset these. Okay. So that's basically your faders mode, and it's handy if you want to kind of make controlled adjustments to any of the bands. All right, so now you know how it kind of works. Let's stop with the noise. Now you can blend the noise into anything you like. It's absolutely fine. But let's go and try this with, I'll turn it off, and I'm going to start this section off, right? So I'm going to solo font stack, which is just playing these chords. Go back into Sculptor. You do get some presets as well. So let's start with this preset, and I'll turn Sculptor on. Very cool, eh? Of course, if you've got minimum, I'm going to set this friction on. You can blend in all these bands. Now let's go to Elastic. You see I've got some bands turned off. I'm on draw mode, which means I can draw in any of these settings. And if I touch on the screen anywhere with my fingers, I can reset those bands. But if I take this off draw mode, watch what happens. It's going to take all them filter bands down to nothing because my bass level is set at 0. If I move my bass level up to about there, let's set the rise and fall. If I touch anywhere now, you can use multiple fingers. I'm just going to use the mouse to show you. If I say touch down here now, the rise time is quite quick, but if I set this to high, the rise time will be slower. And this is like, it's called elastic because it attaches some of the other bands to it. Now the rise time refers to the speed it's going to take to go up or down, and the fall time would be exactly the same. So if I set the bass level down here, touch on at the top here, it's going to take longer to fall down. But of course, if the rise time and the fall time are much quicker, and this means you can kind of just play this like a keyboard with your fingers. So I'm just placing my fingers on the screen now, moving them around, you know. Awesome stuff. And then, like I said, draw mode literally just allows you to draw in a shape. Now you'll notice here that the input level also has a very cool saturation. So if I lower the volume and bring up the level, the saturation comes in, which is nice for some stuff. And also, turn this back up, you can bring in a noise, and of course change the bands. Okay, cycles. Let me just turn that band back on. Well, they're all off, so let me turn these bands back on. Cycles is like an LFO. Bass level again. Slow. You can sync to the tempo. And as we move up on the slope, you'll see that this is kind of a straight line here. This is the speed. The slope is the shape, so we'll drift into a sine wave. And then eventually things will start to get off kilter. It's very cool, right? Let's turn it off of that. Let's look at these drums. I'll turn it on and have a play around with that. Might be cool to bring some noise in as well. Now you can also bypass the filtering, not the noise. It's kind of cool if you want to play it. Don't forget your bass level down to 0. You'll hear no sound because there's no filters are open. Cycles mode is very cool though. And like the position of these will be reflected on the position of your main faders mode. And also your cycles mode, but watch, it'll just drop down. But if we set the rise and the fall to be really slow, watch what happens. It's a very cool way to kind of bring everything to a halt. And you can set the bass level for this as well down to nothing. So if we do this, let's increase the pace. So you can kind of just create a fade out at the end of your performance. It's fab stuff. Okay. So you get the idea. That's what it sounds like on a bit of this. And of course you can mix and match. There's, you know, you can have both of these switched on at the same time. Okay. Nice way to add movement to your songs and things and loops and stuff. Okay, so let's look. We don't really need to solo this, but we'll go there. I've got Sculptor turned off, so it's just a little tiny piano improv. Now, I'll show you something else. You'll see I've got some of these are dark. That means you can turn off any band you like. And if you look at the bands here, if I go back to faders, you'll see that these bands are all turned down to 0. This is because I've switched them off. If I turn all this stuff back on and go to faders, you'll see they've all come back in. So we can choose in cycles mode to say disable any particular band we like. Let's turn it on. And I'll play around with this piano. I've got some noise in here as well. Check out a couple of presets. You see, you can limit all the annoying frequencies and also for the bass range. No friction now, so this is just going to carry on doing it. It's a beautiful thing. Things are getting oversaturated. You can just back it off a little bit. really great. Okay, let's switch it off on that one. Let's focus in on this Thunder and Rain one. So like I said, you can use it for special effects. Let's take this off. Now, I think I did program a little preset for this, the wind in the trees, or maybe not, I can't remember. Anyway, I'll use that and I'll turn it on and we'll just see what happens when I play it, but I'll switch it off to start. I'm going to get rid of that and just play this. So go to there, muted. So this is just a Hallian Sonic Thunder and Rain patch. Played on the keyboard. Oh, it's just lovely. Play around with a few filter banks. So the manual says analog. Let's go back to analog. Analog is a solid general purpose configuration covering a fairly broad range of frequencies. Resonant is a configuration designed to replicate contemporary frequency bands often found in natural sounds. Okay. In 1949, a selection of bands inspired by mid-20th century filter equipment. Remember, this is Hainbach. And then, last but not least, vowels is a closely spaced mode for a subtle, tight, and intimate sound character. But like I said, each filter mode, each filter bank model has these 10 bands to play with. So very cool. Now you might say, oh, well, all these are moving a little bit quick for my liking. But if you start to bring the friction up, right, they'll start to slow down. When you get to a point you like, take the friction back off and they'll continue to move, but at a much slower pace. You can, of course, just set this stuff off by hand anytime you like. Hold it to stop it or flick it again to be a bit smooth. I mean, I'm using the mouse, so it's a bit less controllable, but you'll see they're all moving now. Very nice. Could introduce more of the internal noise, or take it out, and you're just left with this sound. Switch these bands back on. Take this back to kind of a sine. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I'll put a link into Sculptor in the description, of course. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like I said, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, consider becoming a patron or making a donation to help support us here at the Sound Test Room. And I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta.